On a quiet spring morning in March 2009, a young mother laced up her hiking boots, grabbed her phone, and sent a message that would haunt her family forever. "He's either going to propose, or throw me off a cliff." The message was meant to be a joke. A sarcastic remark between a daughter and her mother, something lighthearted to laugh about, but hours later her body would be discovered shattered at the bottom of a rocky ravine along one of Oregon's most beautiful hiking trails. And the man who claimed he helplessly watched her fall would spend the next decade insisting it was an accident. This is the story of Rhonda Casto. Welcome to Creepy True Cases. Take a second to subscribe to never miss out on future stories. Stephen Nicholas appeared, at least on the surface, to be a man with stability and charm. He was a divorced day trader living in a spacious home just outside Portland, Oregon. Financial markets were his forte, and the risks were something he studied, something he was good at. Around the early 2000s, Stephen crossed paths with a woman named Julia Simmons. She had been searching for a rental property when she met him online. Their arrangement started as a simple landlord-tenant situation, but Stephen quickly built rapport with her. Julia found him to be easygoing, someone who made people comfortable quickly. But Stephen's attention would soon shift towards someone else. Julia had a daughter named Rhonda, and when Stephen met her, everything changed. Rhonda was vibrant, confident, and strikingly beautiful. She was 20 years old when Stephen became fascinated by her. Their connection grew quickly, and what began as mere flirtation evolved into a serious relationship. Eventually, Rhonda made the decision to move in with him. In no time, Stephen became a part of her family, forming close bonds with her siblings. Rhonda had two sisters, Melanie and Tessa. Her younger sister, Tessa, at the time was just a child. She adored Stephen's playful personality. He made himself appear warm, approachable, even protective. To outsiders, the relationship between Stephen and Rhonda looked steady and committed. The couple still weren't married, and Rhonda dreamed of marriage. She imagined a future where her life with Stephen became permanent. Friends would later say she spoke often about hoping he would propose. That proposal never came. Despite the absence of wedding vows, Rhonda and Stephen built a life together. They welcomed a baby girl into the world, a child who quickly became Rhonda's entire universe. Motherhood transformed her. She adored every moment she spent with her daughter. Yet she also struggled with changes to her body and identity. She had once pursued modeling, and part of her longed to return to that career. Stephen would later describe her as deeply self-conscious about her body after pregnancy. He claimed they created a plan to regain fitness together by hiking Oregon's most scenic trails. But Rhonda's friends told a darker story. They described arguments and troubling moments that hinted at domestic abuse. March 16, 2009 began like any other outdoor adventure. The Eagle Creek Trail was breathtaking. Towering cliffs, waterfalls, winding pathways carved into rugged terrain. It was also dangerously narrow in places. Before leaving for the adventure, Rhonda sent her now infamous text message to her mother, half joking and yet half prophetic. The weather was mild when they started. Stephen would later say clouds rolled in, temperatures dropped, and the winds intensified. According to Stephen, Rhonda began behaving strangely during the hike. He claimed she asked hypothetical questions about what would happen to their daughter if she died. He reassured her that their daughter would be well taken care of. Then, Stephen described a bizarre moment, something straight out of the pages of a comic book. He said Rhonda wrapped a towel around her shoulders like a cape, declared herself Supergirl, and began running along the slick pathway. Moments later, Stephen claimed she slipped and disappeared over the edge of a 150-foot drop. He told investigators he scrambled down the ravine searching for her, eventually finding her broken body. He said he tried calling 911 and emergency services, but there was no signal. Forced to leave her behind, he hiked back to the trailhead to call for help. Later in the day, rescue teams recovered Rhonda's body. She was 23 years old at the time of her death. At Rhonda's memorial, family members observed Stephen carefully. They searched his face for emotion, for devastation, for signs of grief. Many later claimed that they saw none. Stephen insisted otherwise. He said he grieved privately. That overwhelming sadness caused him to isolate himself. Shortly after the funeral, Stephen packed up his belongings, took custody of their daughter, and moved across the state to Oregon, where his family was based. To Rhonda's family, the move felt abrupt and suspicious. They began asking questions about what really happened between Stephen and Rhonda up to the time of her demise. Questions investigators initially struggled to answer, but not for long. In an unexpected turn, Stephen left the United States entirely. He relocated to China with his daughter, settling in a city called Wuxi, outside of Shanghai. There, he taught English to business professionals and built a new career. By all appearances, he thrived. His daughter adapted quickly, learning Mandarin with remarkable speed. And then Stephen fell in love again. Her name was Landy Yen. In February 2015, they planned to get married. There would be 2 weddings which would be held in both China and the United States. Landy formed a close maternal bond with Stephen's daughter. Their relationship deepened rapidly. Stephen and his daughter boarded a flight back to America, a day before Landy's arrival, unaware that authorities had been quietly re-examining Rhonda's death for years and had a warrant out for his arrest. The moment he stepped into a San Francisco airport, his new life collapsed. Airport security stopped Stephen over what appeared to be a routine baggage issue. Minutes later, detectives separated him from his daughter and placed him under arrest for murder. Investigators had never closed Rhonda's case. They had found suspicious details, and with the persistent pressure from her family, as well as inconsistencies in Stephen's statements, his case was kept alive. Stephen was extradited to Oregon. He would later say the arrest felt surreal, like waking inside a nightmare, but this was only the beginning. His bail was set at $2 million at first, but after 14 months in prison, it was reduced to $250,000 before his lawyer secured his release. Stephen went home with an ankle monitor to await trial. Rhonda's family, especially her mother, was extremely happy to hear of Stephen's arrest. They were anxious for justice to be served and believed that he was guilty of her death. As prosecutors prepared their case, disturbing information about Stephen surfaced. Stephen had engaged in a sexual relationship with Rhonda's teenage sister, Melanie, when she was underage. Prosecutors argued this relationship created explosive tension between Stephen and Rhonda, creating a possible motive for murder. Rhonda had actually found out about the sexual relationship between her sister and Stephen and had addressed it in the past. She also sent a text to Melanie saying that Stephen was a piece of garbage and was using Melanie to hurt her. Stephen initially denied the allegations during interrogation. Later, he admitted to sexual contact but claimed his confession was coerced. Stephen was indicted on SA and sodomy regarding his relationship with Rhonda's younger sister. He said he had earlier pleaded guilty to sexual intercourse with the minor, but later recanted, saying that he gave false testimony as he thought that an admission to the crime would allow him to fight and regain custody of his daughter. He claimed he was desperate and was willing to say anything that helped him get her back. Stephen's defense team focused on physical evidence. The medical examiner determined that Rhonda's injuries were concentrated below her waist, suggesting she landed feet first, which shattered her pelvis, rather than tumbling head over heels. Defense attorneys argued this supported an accidental fall or suicide rather than being pushed. They also introduced her notes from therapy sessions, revealing that Rhonda struggled with depression following childbirth. However, those same records contain no indication she had suicidal intent. Her family fiercely rejected the suggestion that she took her own life, pointing to her devotion to her infant daughter. They believed something far more sinister occurred on that trail. Stephen testified that Rhonda had struggled with substance abuse since age 12, long before they met. He claimed she had used various substances and experimented with them. As the case got heated, the court was later provided with multiple pieces of evidence that proved that Stephen had a disturbing sexual past. Only 6 months after Rhonda passed away, Stephen had been arrested and charged with 5 counts of SA on a 13-year-old girl. Stephen maintained that he was innocent, but later admitted to sending suggestive material such as texts and shirtless pictures. He eventually pleaded guilty to 1 count of sexual harassment. Other testimonies came in as Stephen's ex-wife took to the stands to testify that in their previous marriage, Stephen had tried to suffocate her with a pillow and throw her over the rails of the 8th floor in their former apartment. This reinforced the family's belief that Stephen was responsible for Rhonda's fall to death. But that wasn't all. Something even worse surfaced later. Prosecutors presented another chilling detail. Stephen had increased Rhonda's life insurance policy shortly before her death, a policy worth $1 million. To the defense, it was only a coincidence, but to Rhonda's family, it was the grand finale of motives. Rhonda's mother further stated that Rhonda loved her daughter too much to even think of taking her own life over anything. Above all else, she wanted to take care of her daughter and watch her grow. Despite circumstantial evidence and disturbing behavioral patterns, prosecutors faced a harsh reality. They lacked definitive proof that Stephen pushed Rhonda off the cliff to her death. So rather than risk acquittal, they offered a plea deal. Stephen pleaded guilty to criminally negligent homicide, a drastically reduced charge. He received credit for the time served while awaiting trial, and was placed on parole for at least 3 years and released from police custody. For Rhonda's family, the decision felt devastating. Justice, they believed, had slipped through their fingers. Stephen maintained his innocence regarding the murder. In a 2018 interview, Stephen made a statement that reignited controversy. He described finding Rhonda alive at the bottom of the ravine. He then posed a hypothetical question to the interviewer: if someone ends the suffering of a wounded soldier, is that murder? He added that such a situation could be justified. He never directly admitted to killing Rhonda, but his words suggested something unsettling. Perhaps Rhonda survived the fall. And perhaps someone made a decision in those final moments. The legal battles did not end with Stephen's conviction. In 2017, Rhonda's mother faced her own charges after collecting Social Security survivor benefits on behalf of Rhonda's daughter from 2010 to 2014, claiming that the child lived with her, while her granddaughter actually lived with Stephen. She claimed that she wanted to use the money to care for the baby if Stephen failed to do so. She was charged with theft of government funds, ultimately received probation, and was ordered to repay almost $40,000 over 5 years. Meanwhile, the debate on the $1 million life insurance policy was still ongoing. Rhonda's mother did not want Stephen to profit from her daughter's death. However, she had her own troubles to deal with. She was sentenced to 1 month in a halfway house for her dependency on marijuana and depression medication, as well as 1 year of probation. Stephen's daughter was placed under foster care after Stephen's parental rights were terminated following additional sexual abuse convictions. She was handed over to the Department of Human Services in October 2015. Stephen continues appealing this decision, hoping to be reunited with his daughter. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you think Stephen did it? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.